update. So we can wait for that. But yes, I am out of town again tomorrow through Monday.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay, I got the photos for you. I'll get it to Sean.
How do we, what is it, like this?
There's a button there that says push.
Yes.
Just curious, do you know when people are watching the video?
Depends. There's a number of different places where people can watch the video. Do you mean live or after?
It was live, yeah.
During live, I can see how many people are on YouTube, and in Zoom, I can see how many people are attending the Zoom meeting.
Okay.
But for the KALB broadcast, I can't tell. That goes out to Comcast.
So you couldn't tell I was there?
I could not tell him. I would see a number indicating 1 or 2, or 10, or 25, one of those. Okay, I think that, does anybody need a paper copy of the agenda?
Oh, yeah. I could use one.
Computerless.
Oh, I'm printerless.
Printerless. I like your notepad.
Oh, thank you. He's got 2 of these things.
Ooh.
I don't know, fancy, right?
Fancy.
Anybody else?
Thanks, Chairman.
Anybody else?
Everybody else is up for the 21st century.
All right, so whenever you all are ready to go, I think we can go ahead and go ahead.
All right, so we'll call this meeting to order and start with a roll call, just something.
All right, let me flip my, okay. Member Baldwin,
Here.
Member Carlton,
Aye.
Member Chen,
Here.
Member Green, Member Wan,
Here.
Member Shaw.
Here.
Okay.
All right, we'll start with the land acknowledgement. The city of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated Villages of Lejean. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to the indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions, which have transformed our community and will continue to bring forth growth and unity. The City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. The next item on our agenda is to approve last month's minutes, which were on June 12th. So should we pull those up?
Would you like me to, if everybody's got a chance to look at them, that's fine, but I can certainly pull them up again if anybody wants to review them on the screen.
I'm good.
Yes,
I'm good. So I move to approve, except that Harsh's name is misspelled in one section.
Again, I apologize.
It's all good.
Last name or first name?
Last.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got, there was one W that was left.
There's the
Yeah.
W again, yeah.
Yeah.
My apologies.
All good.
I'll make those corrections. So with that, do you want to make a
I move to
motion?
approve with the
Okay.
correction.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I'm going to do a roll call vote for everybody. Member Baldwin? You can either vote yes that you approve the minutes, or you can abstain since you were here.
Abstain.
Okay. Member Carlton?
I approve.
Okay. Member Green?
Approve.
Member Wan? Member Shaw?
Approve.
Chair Chen?
I.
Okay. They
Mm-hmm.
all approve. Okay. Save and close. Okay.
Didn't think you.
All right, moving on. Looks like we're here for public comment. We're not seeing anybody here in the physical space, but it looks like we have one online person. Okay, go ahead and let him. Go ahead, Jeremiah.
Yeah, good evening. Good to see everybody. It's Jeremiah here. I'm really glad I'm one of the only Albany public attendees in these meetings. I try to attend every public meeting, but I don't know, I always seem to be the only one making a public comment. I wish there were more people making a public comment. But regardless of that, I just want to focus my public comment on the land acknowledgement statement and what this committee is doing to what's the quote in there? Make strides to repay the debt, or there's another thing saying continuing ongoing relationships, something like that. Oh, I think it's really important to take this up one extra level than just reading something in the beginning of the meeting. We really have to take it to heart that it actually matters. And it's not just something we read as a formality. So with that, I would really like to see on a next or future agenda item, possibly the discussion of inviting some leaders of the Lejeune tribe or the Ohlone tribe to ask them, the purpose is to ask them what they would want to see in Albany regarding artwork. And the goal is to establish a good relationship between the Lejeune, the Ohlone, and with the Arts Committee. You know, for example, the pillars for the BART tracks, they could be like a cement totem pole. So they could be painted with Native Ohlone pictures or something that way for all the public to see. But that's just an example of what I would want. But I think it would be really great to put on some sort of future agenda item to invite the tribe or a leader or somebody associated and ask them what they would like to see. You know, have like a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, or 1 year, 2-year plan of how the Ohlones envision their sort of artwork being displayed. I think it's a really good idea for them to be included in the process. So I just think it's a great idea, And just to remind you, November 10th, I believe, is the inaugural day that we put up the flag at the City Hall. So maybe we can get something on the books before November and make something happen for them. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeremiah. We appreciate your comments.
I don't see any other public comments.
Okay. Okay, great, thanks. The next item is announcements, and so are there any announcements from staff or committee members on previous agenda items? Yes or no?
I don't have any announcements. If nobody else has other announcements, and since we have the full group, we could do another round of, I could suggest we do another round of brief introductions. If we wanted to do that, everybody gets to know each other.
Hi, I'm Julian. I recently turned 16, and I'm gonna be a junior next year.
Hi, I'm Brad. I'm recently retired. Sorry, dude. And I'm very excited to be on this committee. We've done some work already, which I'm super happy to see get going. And that's it for me.
I'm Emily Chen. I am a grad student at UC Berkeley, and this is, I guess, my third Arts Committee meeting and my second meeting as chair.
I'm Deirdre, and I was on the Economic Development Committee before it was shut down, and now I'm on this committee and working with Harsh on the murals.
I'm Melanie. I'm a rising senior at Albany High, and this is my second meeting.
My name is Harsh. I've been on the committee since last year, was reappointed again this year, and excited to be working on the Murals project alongside Deirdre.
Yeah, and my name is Jeremy. I'm the staff liaison to the Arts Committee. Before that, I've been with the city for a number of years. I did the Community Media Access Committee for a number of years, but I do media production for the city, and outside of my work with the city, I'm also a photographer, professional musician, and graphic designer. So I do a variety of different things outside in the world.
Would it be helpful to give a rundown of the different subcommittees we have and like who is on each of them?
I think, yeah, we can do that as an announcement. I think that would be great.
Okay, so yeah, there are two subcommittees that we have right now. The Mural project, which includes Deirdre and Harsh. And then there's also the Foyer Art Gallery at the Community Center, and that's something that Brad is the curator, the
Gallery manager.
gallery manager of, and I'm also a part of that arts gallery committees.
As we go forward in the agenda, once we get to the public arts project plan, maybe think about that as we look at these different topics as part of the public arts projects plan. You might want to start thinking about other subcommittees to start looking at the other potential things that the Arts Committee can work on.
Agreed.
Any more announcements? Okay, if there's none, we can move on to presentations, and we have a presentation on the Albany Mural project.
I'll just go ahead and do a quick introduction. At our last meeting, Harsh and Deirdre gave a presentation on the mural project, but we wanted to agendize that for this meeting so there could be further discussion around the amount of money that potentially the Arts Committee would want to use to fund that particular project. And also thought it would be a good idea, now since we were missing a few members at the last meeting, to do it again. It would be a good opportunity. It was a good presentation, and we can go. I think Harsh is prepared to do another run with that, and then I'll give it to Harsh. Take it away.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy. Give me a moment to share my screen. Deirdre, I'll kick things off, and then feel free to just sort of jump in.
And Ren, can you dim the lights for us, please? Put it on the AV mode so they can see. Thank you.
All right, very excited to share on the Albany Murals project again. So for background, this is a project that Deirdre and I have been working on since probably about more than a year now, where we just started walking around the city of Albany and started identifying potential sites that we thought would work really well for murals. I think all of us here on the committee believe in the value and the power of public art, and murals seem like a good way or a good vehicle for getting more public art out there. So with that, I'll kick things off. So, what is the Albany Murals project? We want to install murals in public spaces along the commercial district, and it's sponsored by the Arts Committee, and specifically the Mural Subcommittee. And our mission is to enhance the visual landscape of Albany and to promote community engagement through the creation of vibrant, inclusive, and thought-provoking public murals. So today I want to chat a little bit more about the different sites that we've identified, where we are in conversation with the different business owners, what things look like from a budget perspective for what our ask is going to be, and talk a bit about next steps. So first, let's just talk about the identified sites. And so there are 4 of them. You know, there, there were more as Deirdre and I started engaging with different business and site owners about, hey, would you be open to putting a mural up on your wall? And most of the ones we reached out to said yes. Some of them said no. So, but now it is down to these 4 sites, which is Standage and Solano, the wall alongside Raven and Rose, that's owned by Eric Eichner and Eichner Properties. Renee's Place wall, which is owned by Renee Wang, who owns and runs Renee's Place. The school wall in Cornell, which is, you know, a highly trafficked area, belongs to Albany USD. And then finally, the BART pillars on the Ohlone Greenway. So, of course, you know, all of the art or all the projects that we work on as part of this committee should line up in some way to the master plan that was crafted, you know, I believe it's about more than a decade ago. And it, you know, in that master plan, they sort of prioritize specific areas of the city for public art. And, you know, this is a breakdown of all of the sites that were prioritized by the AAC then, by the Arts Committee then. And, you know, this is how the 4 mural sites that we have identified line up to that public arts master plan. So, you know, Site 4, which is the BART Pillars, is not specifically on the priority list, but it is a highly trafficked area because we're talking about the BART Pillars alongside Solano and Masonic. So, you know, where do we stand with regard to the 4 sites? So, with BART, you know, BART is open to a mural. The theme that they have proposed to us is gateways. We thought it's kind of very nice. Again, the goal of choosing a theme is choosing a theme that is both sort of provides kind of a clear sort of palette to artists to approach with their visions of what it could look like, but also providing some amount of constraints that the business owner or the site owner has a say in. So with BART, you know, it's gateways. I'll talk about Renee's Place last, but Albany USD, there's a few themes that we've been in conversations with them on. One is mind explorations, who we are is what we know, and then finally future visions. And some of these were crafted alongside the chair of the Albany Arts Committee last year, who's a professor of art. And then the Raven and Rose wall, and the theme chosen there is interconnectedness. And then finally with Renee's Place, the theme in discussion, you know, that we'd like to potentially propose to them is flora and fauna. I think it's sort of inspired by what Deirdre and I have seen when we sort of walk into the restaurant of Renee's Place. But this is not something that is finalized quite yet, so we're open to conversation and thoughts on from the committee, which I don't think we have to dig into right here, but maybe we'll leave some space at the end for reactions. All right, what does the overall process look like? A lot of different steps. We are just at the beginning as we go from sort of chaos to clarity. Yeah, I think, you know, we've been leading those conversations with business owners, have gotten kind of preliminary agreement with them to have a mural on their walls. But from here, you know, we want to run the RFP process, work with the Murals subcommittee and find a way for the property owners to have some sort of voice in potentially the choosing of the artists. That's something that we need to work out with Jeremy and the city on how we could potentially involve the site owners, because I know things are a little bit tricky given that we're using public funds. And then finally, you know, make sure that we have a community outreach process for, you know, public comment, review that feedback, finally making a formal recommendation to City Council for approval, because we all know as a committee, we only make recommendations to the City Council to be ratified. And then finally, after contracts are executed, we go into implementation and eventually maintenance, which could be probably, you know, take place over the next decade after the art is up there. So for the budget, maybe I'll pass, Deirdre, you want to chime in on?
Yeah, sure. So we did research and based on what we found and both from the city sides of other cities that have done it, private people that have done murals on their business walls, and artists. We felt like $50 a square foot for budgeting was, would encompass the design and implementation and pay a fair wage to everyone who's involved, i.e. the artists. And so we went and measured all the walls. So as you can see, the Bart pillars are pretty much more than the others. So, which honestly, I didn't realize. I guess I didn't notice that before this moment. But it makes sense because they're multi-sided and there's 4 of them. So, and we ran the numbers a lot and came up with this $81,000 for all four murals for this stage of the project, understanding that what we would love is to get $81,000 up front, but we're unlikely to do all 4, if any, in the next 12 months. So really, the money would be dispersed over a longer term, and I don't know how that works with the city. So, and then I guess we can, set priorities when we go through the big plan. But we both feel comfortable that this is a fair price to pay. So I can't really emphasize that enough, because a lot of people think, oh, it should only cost $1,000, and that's not a living wage for anybody. So, so the next steps are tonight for the committee to provide thoughts on Renee's Place theme. And we have to make the formal budget recommendation to the city council, like right now after this meeting, I believe. So, right? Is that right?
Yes and no. I think this won't be taken up by city council before the next final July meeting. There's only one meeting here in July, and then so their next meeting will be in September.
Okay,
There's no meetings in August.
right.
Sorry, there's no meetings in August. So yes, it would be a good idea to come up with a kind of a decisive, a decision by the committee for which way the committee would like to go. But it doesn't mean that it necessarily has to be done immediately. So
Okay.
the discussion, the decision could happen tonight, but the actual kind of the details of the implementation don't need to happen
Right now.
right now. That could
Okay.
happen, probably the first meeting in September probably would be appropriate, because I don't think this will actually go to council at their next meeting.
Okay, okay.
I'm sorry, I have one question. Have the RFPs already gone out?
No.
They have not? Okay,
No, we couldn't do that without a budget.
Yeah.
fair enough.
So we're definitely at a point where action has to happen for the project to move forward.
And that's why we put it on the agenda tonight, so we can do, after the presentation is done, the committee can ask some questions, we can take it to public comment, and then bring it back for a discussion and perhaps a vote or some decision-making about the mural project. Or that can also go into be connected to the next part of the agenda, which is the public arts. I keep
PPP.
the PAPP,
Yeah.
and then how this figures into all of the different things that the Arts Committee will need to do, and then kind of look at that together.
So, and then I think that's it.
Yeah.
So looking at your slide right here, looks like one of the two of the questions, we kind of looked at the city's B, some guidance and support, we can get to that. I don't know that I have any more particular thoughts about including how site owners can have a voice in the selection, but that can be something we can look at together during our discussion. I don't have a particular, obviously, what we would be looking at from the city's point of view is transparency and fairness, to make sure that everybody, gets a voice and they're included, but ultimately, really looking towards the right artist for the right space, as opposed to some sort of micromanaging situation where there's too many cooks in the kitchen trying to determine, how best to implement an artist's vision, which I think that would be inappropriate. So it's a fine line.
So I mean, I'll just respond to that quickly. It seems like from our discussions with the site owners, that they wouldn't be looking to micromanage, but would like a choice, feel that they have a say in the artist. Now, they're saying this now, so it could change, obviously, but in the artist who is selected, so that they would be a member, I guess, but if it's allowed, a member of the selection committee.
Perhaps, if you were to look at a process, perhaps something that could be one round of revisions based on the property owner's recommendations or requests, or maybe you've obviously done the work on the theme already, so the theme already has a connection to the space, and perhaps once the artist has rendered some proposal, then that would be the time for the person to weigh in. And maybe part of that proposal is, here are 3 options, and that's part of the process, is to prevent 3 different, sketches, and then refine one, something like that. And that could be built into the language of whatever the contract is.
And we can also, we haven't looked around very much at how other cities have handled it, just because
Right.
we wanted to get a little bit further before we go into those weeds.
And there's a number of cities that wouldn't be hard for you to obtain that information.
Not at all. And most of it's actually on their city websites, so that we can, most of the cities encourage other cities to use their experience as a template. So,
Okay.
I mean, do you have the template of the past murals from Albany already? Or no?
nothing's been done like this.
Yeah.
So the murals that are there right now were put up by the own businesses. And so, I mean, there are some things that we know, like you can't have any basically no words. So it can't be, if the city's paying for it, it can't have that. I'm sure there's a million legal restrictions on if the city's paying for it, what it can and cannot include. But yeah,
What about the social justice mural that,
it hasn't gone up yet.
yeah, but there was a request for proposals and everything.
There's no,
There's no
that
site.
that project is like, the sites are in the city of Albany. It's not a private site owner.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just kind of hard to believe, but there's nothing like this in this city yet. There will be.
But to Jeremy's point, you can go to like Oakland and San Francisco, and
We have,
Yeah.
murals everywhere.
Yeah, we actually, I have them booked, all the comparable cities bookmarked so that we can just look at it. We just haven't, it's like digging into the weeds, and there's so much there are so many logistics with a project like this that we just both seem to have naturally been like, okay, we're just gonna take little chunks at a time instead of trying to understand the whole thing at once.
And I've noticed lately that a lot of people who do actual murals, they sign them.
Yes, yeah,
They have their info right there.
yeah.
So you can just look them up.
Yeah, one of the site owners actually said, go look at this guy, maybe this person would be interested, and,
Right.
So, because they had seen a signature somewhere,
Right.
so.
So I think the main task probably for the committee tonight is deciding on an amount of money that the committee would recommend to put towards this particular project. I think that'll be, kind of the questions, the discussion would be related to that.
I have a question about like the mural content, which does kind of have to do with budgeting, but are all the site owners looking for murals like produced by professional artists, or all of them?
yeah, they're all interested in professional artists,
Is there-
I understand it.
Is there any way we could maybe extend it to be like a community project, and that way budgeting would be cheaper to like produce something like
I
that?
think that is an interesting idea. I think that is something that we could potentially include as part of the RFP, but certainly some of the site owners, for example, Bart has said that it cannot be any sort of city boosterism, that it'd have to be a professional artist.
I was thinking maybe something for the Albany USD enrollment office, because I feel like that's very, like, if we had students work on it, that would be very relevant and meaningful to the space.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't know if anybody's seen the, it's a mural, it's a school up on Albany Hill. It's some, I don't know, daycare or school, but I think they did hire a professional artist to basically outline it, everything. And then they brought just seniors in and said, here's some paint, paint it. Which I've seen that done with kids
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a very fun community.
And I
Outreach?
think AUSD did want some.
Yeah, they do. I think they do want
involvement.
some amount of student
Yeah,
involvement, but
yeah.
the details of what that looks like exactly.
That
haven't
probably
been
wouldn't
dug
be
into
much of a
this.
cost savings, but I think that because you're still hiring an artist to direct a project.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone has to manage the entire
Yeah.
process.
But the implementation, perhaps there's some savings, but I think maybe the real benefit is community involvement more so than cost savings. I think
Yeah.
the cost savings, you know, probably should budget on the same way, perhaps if it's a little smaller or larger space, but I think, you know, getting the community involved would be a selling point for just about anybody, and I think.
And honestly, I might actually go as far as saying these might be two separate subjects. Because I love the idea of getting the community involved, but also getting some very quality professional murals up in Albany would really pop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of it, you know, with public art and even on this committee, it's the connection between how public art can help sort of revitalize a sort of certain economic area and make it a destination. And so I
Right.
think the community aspect is certainly one part, as you pointed out. But also separate from that could be how we make it a place where people actually want to drive in from other cities to come and visit.
Agreed. Sorry, didn't mean to disrail you.
No, not at all. But yeah, I think it's a good suggestion to consider, like, hey, how can we get the community involved? But I think from a budgeting perspective, probably, I think as Jeremy pointed out, probably want to start with whatever sort of footprint sort of laid out, and then there might be savings likely in the process.
To recap, as we kind of finish I'll answer a question before it's asked in this question part. There is approximately $150,000 left in the fund, in the Art and Public Places Fund, and that would be the monies used, that would be available for use on a mural project. There's actually $180,000, but we've encumbered about $30,000 for the social justice artwork program, which is currently in the works. So the committee will be making a decision in its discussion today on whether or not to use a large amount of, large portion of what is available with the understanding that it takes a while to replenish those funds, but also the committee and the city really haven't done very much, and this will likely be something that, like Deirdre said, won't happen immediately and could, be spread out over, within a year to 3 or 4 years, depending on finding the artists, and the time frame. So that's really the question that the committee would wrestle with tonight to decide whether or not you want to kind of go for it or hold back for something else. But you really don't have a lot of something else kind of ready to go. Certainly in the same kind of the same readiness that Deirdre and Harsh, they've done the work so far to kind of bring us to this point. So it's just a matter of having that discussion, is $80,000 good? Is it $60,000 for something? Do we only want to spend $10,000? But I don't think that that's kind of where the committee is at. So that would be the questions around that or any other questions regarding the mural project. And then after we're done with that, we can go to public comment to see if anybody has anything else to add.
A question about the mural project. Is there like one specific pillar that you guys have like picked out?
The four.
There are 4 pillars.
Yeah, there are 4. So,
They border Solano, is
Yep.
that right?
yeah,
Okay,
so it's 2 and 2,
2 and 2.
yeah.
Thematically, would those be connected?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think Bart wants the same artist for all 4, so that it's harmonious. Right, Hirsch? Is that your understanding? Yeah, yeah.
Do you think it would be more of 4 different pieces with the same theme or some sort of piece that connects all of them?
All 4?
Yeah, like some sort of like,
I think that we would have to see what comes in from the RFPs, you know? I mean, it could be interesting, and then that's what we would be looking at from those.
quick question. What is an RFP?
A request for proposals.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
For the community outreach process, I guess that's a little bit further down the road, but I guess thinking about what that would look like, would that be a public comment period, a more focused public comment period or something?
Yeah, maybe I'll chime in here. Jeremy, let me know what we might be missing here. But I think as we embark on the project and we have kind of a green light, generally speaking, that this is something that is going to go or move forward, we run through the RFP process, then I think the public comment period kicks off. I think it might be like a 60-day period where notices are actually posted on the specific site wall saying, hey, this site is part of, let's say, the Albany Murals project. Find out more here. If you have any comments, please email them in to the Arts Committee. And of course, we'd be talking about it during the meetings as well, where we can kind of review some of the feedback that comes in.
The one thing that I would add to that is I believe that would happen after there is a more or less finalized design. So very close to a finished design, if not a finished design, even though, so we're looking for that final information from the public after something has been rendered by the artist. That is in a presentation format that can be shared with the community, and then further refined after that.
I'll just put those steps up there. Yeah, to your point, Jeremy, yeah, it's like in step 6 out of the process, and it happens after things are sort of, there's an initial draft of what we want to do.
Correct, yeah.
Who exactly does the RFPs?
The city would put the RFPs together, probably based on what the subcommittee brings, and then we would issue the RFP.
Okay. Do we get a review?
This is the Arts Committee meeting right now. Yeah, you.
I'm just curious if we get to review those RFPs for, I don't know, are they asking for extraneous experience or maybe something that is not necessary?
I'll have to review that with the rest of the city staff to kind of understand what the process is, but I believe that all of those applications would come back to the committee or to like a select panel that the committee would designate to review. I don't think that's not going to be done specifically by city staff, but I believe either the Arts Committee will assign another group of people to assess and then come back with a recommendation, or and maybe that's a subcommittee of the Arts Committee to work on the Murals project. I'd have to get back with you with the specifics.
I know with the social justice project, the subcommittee in charge of that created a selection panel of, I was invited to be on the selection panel. I couldn't go to the meeting where it was discussed, so I never met my fellow people, but, and then it was a very clear format for the artists to provide their vision in, including like, what is your background? You know, what other projects have you worked on in this vein? What do you see in your mind? And then some more concrete examples of how how the installation would be implemented. In that case, it was a bigger project than these murals, so the implementation of a mural's kind of mostly,
Okay.
Likely it would be similar to that.
yeah.
And I would assume that's all like written in paper, but I assume they would have to submit some artwork.
Yes, definitely.
And I think it's totally reasonable to ask for them to submit 3 ideas,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to anything. You know, yeah,
It's very common
Yeah.
in our world.
yeah, sure.
Going back to the community involvement, like I feel like the public comments, the suggestions that we've heard, like this meeting and last meeting, have been really excellent, and I just wonder if there's like, maybe it's too chaotic to incorporate like public ideas in the request for proposals. It's, the community outreach process just seems a little bit like late in the order, but yeah, I don't know if it's a good idea to have some sort of like guidance from the community for, in the RFP or not. But that's-
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, one thing Harsh and I talked about is putting up a website just explaining the project with like for more information or feedback or whatever. So, I mean, maybe a vehicle like that is a way to solicit community involvement, and if most people aren't reading the minutes to these meetings, and who knows how many are actually looking. But, you know, I certainly have been talking to people about the project, and I'm hopeful that the word is getting around that we're working on this. I mean, I don't know how else to solicit public feedback at this point.
You know, so the city has a number of different vehicles, you know, obviously e-news, we can do surveys, we can put some information on our website specific to that. Let me find out exactly how you as committee members can put that together, but I can follow up with the subcommittee to help you understand the appropriate ways in which the Brown Act would apply to soliciting information from the public, because I
Okay.
think it's a good idea. Obviously, during our public comment, we had one suggestion, and the previous meeting, there was some other suggestions, and it would be good to get some of that information, even just for topical ideas, especially if you were able to look at the different themes that have already been considered, and perhaps I'll find out what is the appropriate way to ask for or to involve the public at this point, as opposed to after the, you know, final artwork has been more or less decided upon, to see what the community says. So let me see if I can get back with you on that.
Okay,
Make a note.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if like the RFP is just gonna be like, the theme is gateways, and that's all
What could
that's-
that mean?
Yeah.
Or if there's like, it's this, and like, these are maybe some emphasis that we would wanna have, and I guess we would also have to run it by the property owners too on that.
Yeah, like the social justice project, that, one of the kind of stipulations in the RFP was that the proposal be very site-specific, which ironically, the one that won doesn't have a site. But so everyone else was very clear about the site that they envisioned their project appearing on. And I thought that was interesting because it helped me as a assessor envision the project better when I knew that it might be on this corner or whatever.
To solicit information, could we maybe like put a temporary sign on the physical wall? So like when people walked past it, they could see like, oh, the space is like, or like people, the city council is planning to put like a mural here, like
Yeah.
maybe that could be helpful.
Yeah, it's almost like a coming soon.
Yeah, exactly. It could be kind
This
of a
is what
fun
we
way.
are planning.
Yeah.
Coming soon to a wall near you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
Maybe
cute
we could do
idea.
that once we actually have like the RFP process.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like say, hey, RFP process has gone out for this wall, because that might be a way that many people sort of hear about the project and might be even submitting applications.
right, right.
Or add like some sort of link on the actual sign where they can provide feedback.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
thinking
exactly, yeah.
like a QR code because people
QR
use
code.
their phones
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we could do a QR code to a survey or feedback or something like that.
that's a great idea.
Yeah. And just going back to the whole community feedback and how much in RFPs and just assuming the two of you are going to be running this whole thing, think about how much you want to sift through,
Yeah,
because it could be overwhelming.
yeah. Yeah, the social justice one, there were 40, I think 30 or 40 proposals.
Wow.
Yeah, but the chair from this committee was in charge of that project, and he was very organized. He gave and I kept everything too, so I can just we can riff off it. He gave like a Excel spreadsheet to provide feedback in and, specific rank. I mean, he totally knew what he was doing, and thank goodness someone's done it, so.
Great, great. You're already on top of it, so
Yeah.
great.
Are there any more questions before we go to public comment?
We can use like just Google surveys or just, I forget what they're called, but
Google Forms.
Google Forms, there it is.
Yeah.
And they can also kind of export into just a Google sheet, so you can just read them off.
Yeah,
Add feedback, and you can add feedback to Google Docs, basically, depending on the present,
As a former Google employee, I endorse
yes.
all of that.
There
Yeah.
are some restrictions with the Brown Act for a file, for information sharing through cloud documents, so.
Good points.
So that likely would be a subcommittee, kind of working project, so wouldn't be able to be shared with everybody because of the Brown Act, but you certainly could use one of those tools, SurveyMonkey or Google Forms, or however you decide to.
that's funny. That's probably why Aaron gave us Excel spreadsheets.
Good Brown Act
Yes.
form. Are there any other questions?
Are there any specific questions around budget, kind of as we kind of head into the next part of the discussion as well?
Weren't we going to go over the budget?
We're going to look at the the PAPP, which will determine how much of the budget that's there can be spent on a variety of different options, the Mural project being one of them.
Okay.
But since the Mural project is the most complete in terms of its readiness to move towards a funding scenario, that's why we wanted to put this here first on the agenda, so we could have a fuller discussion around this and whether or not, because the discussion can happen, the discussion and the more questions around the budget can happen all together. But we wanted to look at this project specifically, especially since a couple of our members weren't here at the last meeting.
Right. Okay.
So if there were to be any decision-making, everybody was involved in hearing it again and being able to weigh in. We do have one member of the public who's ready to ask a question or to comment if you're ready to go. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Jeremiah. Oh, let me stop that. Jeremiah, are you there? Oh, maybe I'll give him a few more seconds.
in?
Yeah, Jeremiah, are you there? We're at public.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, can you
Yeah.
hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just gonna focus on the BART tracks. Just for clarification, I believe that the BART tracks deserves proper recognition and the proper name. It's not just the BART tracks. It actually has a name. It's called the Albany Greenway. So I'm wondering if it's too much to ask to rename it, Albany Greenway Pillars, Albany Greenway BART Pillars. I understand it's BART's private property and all that, but it's called the Albany Greenway, and I think it's just a perfect match. I think it would be so neat to have the Ohlone tribe or the Lejeune tribe to be able to have the opportunity to paint those. I hope somebody from this commission or somebody from city staff really takes initiative to reach out to the tribe and let them know that there's this opportunity. I know that there's a meeting at the Giltrack Farm every Monday night, I think at 5 o'clock. I think one of the Ohlone tribes members is there, but there may be other ways to contact Lejeune tribe. So yeah, I just want to just mention, you know, it's the BART tracks it's called the Ohlone Greenway already, and I think it just almost makes common sense to have the Ohlone be able to paint the BART pillars on the Ohlone Greenway. It's just perfect, and I think that's a great way to honor the ongoing commitment that the city's striving to do with the land acknowledgement. You know, I just think it's a perfect opportunity to involve the Ohlone tribe. So I don't want to speak too much on it. I don't want to, you know, keep repeating myself. I'm sure you get the gist of what I'm saying. So yeah, just all in all, just I hope someone reaches out to them and invites them, and you know, I hope they would get picked. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right.
Can I respond to that? Am I allowed to respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm actually the manager of Cafe Ohlone, so the reaching out has been done. And we can follow up in whatever venue is appropriate, but for sure, I can ask that they be involved.
Great.
So now we enter the discussion of the budget, or in just the project in general. So any comments from anyone off the bat about, and I guess there's a potential for us to have action here, or I guess maybe that would be in the next section.
Let's see, here we go. Yeah, so we could take action here or in the next item, depending on how you'd like to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can see how people feel on the if they're ready to, you know, take action before discussing the other budget items, whether the other budget items influence this item. So I guess we can see where that goes. Any comments off the bat on the Albany Mural project?
Not from me.
Okay.
You were expecting me to say something, weren't you?
I was. Yeah, I am in support of the budget amount, and I think that there is, you know, you two have spent a lot of time on it, and that we should really capitalize on your efforts while we have you two working on this. So I support the budget and the amount that you have researched and estimated it to be.
I second that.
All right. Any other thoughts from anyone?
I second that.
I'll third it.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, I think then maybe we can take action now, since there is a consensus to include it in the public arts project plan as proposed. And then, do I entertain a motion on that now?
So yes, we would be looking for a motion that details, the committee would like to recommend the mural project move forward at the budget, something along the lines of the budget amount indicated in the presentation, and incorporate that into the PAPP, something like that, if somebody wants to make that motion, and then get a second, then we can do a vote.
Just to be clear, your guys' budget was 81,000 plus, right?
81,340.
And the total budget is 150 at this point.
At this point.
Okay.
That's the question, you know.
Yes.
If 80,000 goes towards this, then there's that much left for the other stuff.
How often do we get funding?
Very seldomly. It has to do, this particular, it really depends. It's the Art and Public Places Fund, and it is money that comes to the city when there's a large-scale a development. So some sort of target, a shopping center or a building project, and then a portion of those monies gets added to that fund. And so this has been building really over the course of 15, 20 years, something like that. So it could be, you know, it could be a significant amount of time before it builds up to this amount, but there's, like the committee was discussing earlier, it could be 4 or 5 years. This isn't all going to be spent immediately at once. You know, perhaps, you know, the RFPs go out and there's one application, or maybe there's 40 applications. Then the committee could determine a timeline for implementation, do them all at once, or do them over the course of a couple sessions of art committee, so.
Yeah, and maybe just to chime in, just from being on the committee last year, the social justice project, I think, is one that has been at work for at least 2 or 3 years now. And that's, I think, originally 10,000 was allocated for that, and none of it has been spent thus far. So I think it's just sort of grappling with the pace at which projects sort of are executed is sometimes slower than we might want them to be. So there's also potential that by the end of, you know, our collective term, that maybe half that amount has been spent. But I think that we'd at least like to have a shot at getting all of those murals up, because I think we have some real momentum here.
Based on what Harsh just said about, you know, the timing and how much time it takes and everything, and I motion we move forward.
Actually, as I'm looking at the agenda, I think it would be best to move the voting to the discussion portion of 6.1.
Okay.
That's fine.
Because, you know, in the way that it's worded here, it doesn't say that the committee is going to take action, and it would, you know, just to be safe, move that to the discussion. And we can have that vote when we look at the PAP.
Yeah, my sense of the estimate is that it's a generous estimate, and at least compared to some of the other items, it's more
I see.
of a non-conservative.
Although I will say the other items are low balls because they've been in there for years.
How much will it cost to redo the
That's correct, and
errands?
there aren't any actuals.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that shows you how slow things go, right? So, like the heron sculpture, I'm sure that'll come in higher than that budget, because that's the budget from 2012 with
15%,
10%.
10%, yeah.
Yeah, there's no way, costs are way more than 10% since then. And it was probably underpaid then, so, yeah. I mean, in the best case, we'd be over budget, right? I mean, we'd be under budget, our estimate was over. But we both felt like it was better to kind of go there.
Yeah, that's what I meant by generous, is not lowballing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, great. Any other comments before moving on to 6.1?
I'll say one more thing, which is that I think there's only one place in the slides where the BART pillars are referred to as BART pillars as opposed to the loan agreement. I think every other slide calls it the loan agreement, but that's something that Deirdre and I can fix to ensure it's consistent.
Yeah, thank you for all your work on this. All right, I think we're ready to move on to talking about specific items of the PAPP. So maybe it would be good to pull up the draft budget.
Yeah, let me get that here. Let's see. All right. All right, I believe this is, let's see, can everybody see that okay? Oops. Let's see if I can make this a bit bigger here for you. We're working on these PCs. Come on now. Yeah, so at the last meeting, Isabel gave a presentation on all of this. If you didn't get a chance to look at the presentation from the YouTube video, these are the projects that are currently part of the public places or the Public Arts Projects Plan, and this is what we would need the committee's decision on tonight or at the next meeting in September to decide how to allocate the funds based on these projects. This is kind of a draft of what's, what has been done and what can be done in the future. The Murals project is one of those. And we can just briefly go over the Creative Justice Art Project is the project that we've been talking about tonight. $30,000 is encumbered for that. That's currently in the works. The Murals in Commercial District is the project that Deirdre and Harsh have been working on, which we just received their presentation on. There's a sculpture loan program. I think there's one remaining location for a sculpture to be, say, leased, right? It's a one-time payment to feature a sculpture. Can you remind me of the location of that? I'm trying to remember where that other location is.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Anyways, some of the infrastructure has already been prepared to feature some work in that location. And there's the restoration, repair of the heron sculpture, which is down at the waterfront. And like Deirdre said, this is an estimate of how much it would cost to either recoat, refinish, repair, remove. I think there's been one restoration that's happened already in the course of its life. I think it was installed, I'm trying to remember when it went in. I think it was mid-2000s?
Yeah,
something?
2002.
Or early 2000s. So it's been there for a while. Other community projects, and that's kind of where we're at. There's other programs that are part of the Arts Master Plan that where you wanted to include those. They're not already part of the PAPP, but there's Poet Laureate, trying to think of, some of the other Fall into Haiku. Those aren't not necessarily Art in Public Places program, but if there was something that you wanted to include as part of this funding, we could add that in here too. That would be something else for you to either discuss and or include. And if you don't want to finalize this list at this meeting, maybe you want to take another peek in August at the Public Arts Master Plan and come back to this in September. That would be perfectly appropriate. But I think tonight, I think as the committee's looking at this, these are what are here right now. And the kind of the main item on the table is whether or not you'd want to use a majority of the funds available to move forward with the mural program.
So now we discuss.
Mm-hmm.
So can I say something? So if we add in, so the set-aside, community project set-aside fund is in the budget right now, not to exceed 36. And if we added everything up, I think it adds up to just under 150,000 with the Murals project. But again, that's not all going to be dispersed. I mean,
Yeah, based on what you said,
years.
it's not going to
Yeah.
happen for
Yeah,
a while.
yeah.
Yeah. Do we feel good about adding the 81,000 into that cell?
I do.
I mean, I guess based on our previous, almost motion,
Why
I think
not?
that we should, add that in so we can see what we're working with.
I don't know if this is a live table and whether or not we have any tallies on here. It doesn't look that way. But I did type it in there.
Great, and I guess Deirdre just did the math and that it would, if everything on there is included, it would be around 150,000.
Which would still leave 30,000, I think,
Yeah,
is the,
Something else.
it's 180 minus the 30 that was set aside in the beginning.
And can somebody remind me what community projects necessarily means? I assume those are the small scale, it says right there.
Yeah.
Small scale kind of, I don't know, projects. Whether they're sculpture, mural, I don't know what else it would be.
I think they can be anything.
They can be anything. I think it's actually just sort of a placeholder budget item that gives the committee flexibility to find other projects to fund over the remainder of our term
Okay.
without having to go back to city council for
So it's a-
approval for budget.
Private slush fund. Ooh, was that on tape?
Yeah, I like keeping that as the maximum allowable amount, as long as we think that the council is not gonna take issue with that. And that would be a good place to, set aside, if someone from our committee wants to take on the haikus or the banners or other things, that would most likely fall below 10,000, so it could be something that, if we have the capacity to do, we can draw from that.
So do we move to add it? How does it work?
Well, the way that this would happen tonight with this item is any questions that the committee has about any of these other projects, kind of where it all lines. Then we open it up for public comment again, and then bring it back to the committee for discussion and/or action.
Okay.
We were talking about small community projects not exceeding $10,000. We're talking about banners and haikus and things. Where are you guys thinking that that it would be most effective to put those sorts of projects? Or is that just, we don't have to worry about that right now?
If I recall from a previous meeting, banners don't really fall underneath us, right? Because they're not permanent.
Correct. They're included as part of the public art master plan, but Public Works is working on that currently. There's some aspects of economic development and wayfinding. The current banners that are around Albany, you see the orange and the blue and the yellow ones with
Yeah.
the design. Those they're kind of getting towards the end of their life cycle. So it may come before the committee, but it's not necessarily it's more like a branding as opposed to an art installation. So I'm not sure whether or not the Arts Committee would weigh in on that or not, but it is something that was included as the Public Arts Master Plan. It's not part of the Art in Public Places program. And then to answer the question, Fall into Haiku is another program that the committee has implemented over the course of a number of years. Whether or not the committee wants to continue with that, same with the Poet Laureate, that's been I think there was some difficulty finding acceptable Poet Laureates in the last time around. And whether or not those are important things at this point, or is the committee ready to start with something new? And having the small community projects, perhaps that could, allow the community to do some outreach to the community. Have the committee do some outreach to the community to see if there are other projects that would be appropriate to implement. Community mural, for example, on city property or school district property. Maybe that's something. It would be a community project.
Sure.
Interesting.
Okay, and then the other items, like the heron sculpture, so went to the bulb, and I have some pictures to share if people want to take a look at how the state of the heron sculpture is. But yeah, it might not be, I mean, something that we want to tackle in this budget cycle, I think.
Meaning that it's not such an eyesore that we need to deal with it yet, or?
Yeah, I mean, I personally did not really notice it until you like walk up.
You have to really get close, yeah. I agree.
I mean, from here, it looks pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, you have to, there's a certain spot that was tagged,
Oh,
but it's very small, and
oh, yes, the black on the neck
no, it's,
And the white.
it's,
and the white.
yeah, still don't see it.
It's a little hard to see. It's a little difficult to see with the lighting here on the projector. There's a little bit of rust you can see kind of in this area. Some other rust down here. Thank you for taking the pictures.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Some people would call that character.
Right. There's a little bit of, tagging. I don't know if that's paint or if it's scratched in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It had some charm, you know?
Yeah.
No, I think I'm with you, Emily. I don't think it's one of the most important things to do. It's a very solid, striking sculpture. I'd hate to see it go away. But I don't know if we necessarily need to spend a lot of money on refurbishing it right now.
I totally second that. The most important thing is really the shape, and not many people get up close to actually see the imperfections in it. So I think it's not a huge priority.
Yeah, especially since it's in the middle of the traffic circle, like I hardly see people walk into the traffic circle.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that specific item?
I feel if a wing fell off, we might need to take action, but if it's at this current state, yeah.
So I think probably what the committee would want to do with that is get some updated quotes for what it would cost to, I mean, obviously, the committee's not talking about removing it because it doesn't appear to be at the end of its life cycle. Probably want to address the rust issues, whether or not it's, there's some bit of restoration, just for that, but it's not a safety hazard at this point. At least it doesn't appear to be. So we'd probably want the city to get some quotes for, what it would take to do a minimum amount of either cleanup and protection, right? That's something like that.
So does somebody need to volunteer to do that?
Let's see, I think that I'll discuss with other city staff and see kind of what the process is, but looking at this, the amount of money that's set aside, that would be really to investigate the options for rehabilitation, relocation, or removal. It doesn't look like relocation or removal is something the committee is inclined to do, so we want to get the pricing for restoration.
Okay. Do you know where this original price came from?
Yeah, that was from 2012. Yeah, it was an estimate from 2012 when they were looking at doing that. And it may have been, I think it was restored once since it was installed, or it hasn't been restored.
I think once.
Once,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Somewhere online about the restoration process on the last go.
Okay. It's a really old quote.
Yeah,
So the updated quote would only be higher then.
correct,
Yes.
correct.
Yeah, definitely.
But perhaps there is, depending on how the restoration were to be done, is it something the city can do in-house? Does the city have to contract out? Does the artist need to be involved? I'm not sure. But perhaps there is a minimum restoration as opposed to a full restoration. And maybe there's a price difference between those two options.
Okay.
And I'm not certain whether or not that would be something that we would defer to Public Works, or if something that would need to create a subcommittee to do that work. I can get back. Let me talk with the other staff and figure out whether or not this is something that the city would take on and provide that information back, or whether or not we'd give it to a subcommittee of the Arts Committee to do that work.
Okay.
And I can have that information to you by the meeting in September.
Great. What about the sculpture loan program? I think last time we left off that amount might not be sufficient anymore, but at the same time, that was the amount that was given for the first artist that already put in their piece. And so do we want to keep it at that same amount, raise it, or not pursue that?
It honestly seems really low to me. And I don't know how long the loan is. I mean, the one that's been out, where's that? Kearun, Masonic?
Masonic in Washington.
Washington, yeah. That seems like it's been there for several years.
It's been there about 9 months.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, time flies. And I kind of had a question about, does anybody kind of maintain the area around these sculptures? Because it's starting to get overgrown.
Typically, that would be Public Works, but I'll take a look and see.
Yeah, I think the general sentiment on the committee last year was that the amount that was set is probably too low, just given the cost of just hiring a truck for a day to get the sculpture then installed. And the artist has to deal with all of that, even if you're just given a concrete base.
Right.
And then eventual removal of the sculpture as well at the end of a 2-year period. So I feel like, if I was to take a guess, doubling it is
Yeah.
probably something that would make it actually more enticing to get an artist to consider lending a sculpture out.
I would agree with that. Look at us just raising the budget just like that.
So right now it's at 150.
Okay.
We can save on the heron sculpture and kind of transfer that to the sculpture loan program.
Yeah, I would like
Yeah.
to see the sculpture loan program through, just because now there's a base there, and so there's been some initial costs.
I mean, if we added $2,000 more, it's at 152. What's the big difference there, honestly?
Right, seriously.
Right.
Yeah, and as you said, it's not all getting spent at once.
No, not at all. Yeah.
So you're looking at $4,500 for,
At least, yeah.
Seems like a more fair amount.
Yeah.
one of the other thing to consider is the community project set aside fund not to exceed $36,000. That's almost like a reserve. The committee wouldn't, maybe, working over this next year, you're not really looking towards other projects to come to the committee.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And that 150 includes that 36, so it's still leaving 28 in the pot.
Right.
So really, it's leaving like 50 in the pot, kind of.
A general thing I feel with budgeting is that at the end of our 2-year term, if we have spent all of the money and there's a lot of awesome public art in Albany, we will have succeeded, just given the pace at which things go. So we will
really
fulfill
done
our
our
mission
job.
rather than
Bam.
reserving it for projects that might hypothetically appear 10 years from now and not get implemented 15 years from now. So.
Yeah.
And then in those 2 years, the committee works on different ways to do fundraising.
Right.
Exactly.
If the Albany City Council sees all these cool murals, is there a chance we would get more funding?
Well, this potentially, but not specifically. The way that this fund has been designated is to take money from commercial projects, developments that happen in Albany, and allocate a portion of, percentage of the total project cost towards this. Of course, the city council could look at other ways to fund arts in the community, but times are tight, all around. So I don't imagine that there would be a parcel tax, to the Albany community but, who's to say, advocacy and the community getting involved, who knows? what
Well,
would happen.
and our hope is that, that it will spur people to think about what they could do with their buildings in a different way. So,
And the paper things that you were talking about, the signs would also help with that.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get people excited.
yeah.
I think one of the things that, from my many years of looking at committees is you've got an active group of committee members who are ready to do the work. That's not always the case for each community committee. And and it will take a certain amount of time to do any of what's being proposed here. It's not all going to be spent at once. It is a large number, but small. It's a large number for Albany. It's a large number for this budget, but it's not a large number in the context of art and commercial spaces. So.
Okay, I feel like we have a good sense of what we want on the plan, but at the same time, we're not ready to finalize it because of the heron sculpture. Is that true?
I think we can leave it, but.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah, I think we can leave it as is at this point.
okay.
because we can always come back to the committee and say, well, the numbers came in like this, and this is what your options are later at this point. So one of the things you can, so after we take public comment, since we've done some Q&A here, is you can make a recommendation to approve the PAPP with the mural, the addition of the mural project for this amount of money. And then that could go to council, and if there are any changes, that can always come back to the committee. That would be the discussion that you would have after public comment. So are we ready to go to some public comment?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Jeremiah.
Radio check.
Yeah,
Can you hear me
radio
okay?
check. Jeremiah, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay, radio check. So a few things. Oh, first of all, I just want to say I'm really happy how well this committee gets along with each other. You guys, you all just communicate so well, and I'm having fun just listening to everybody just have a good time up there. So I just want to give everybody some recognition on how well you guys communicate with each other and how well you all get along. It's really nice to see that. Now back to the agenda item. Sorry to get off topic there. So the sculpture loan project. I just want to, I don't know, raise awareness that potentially there's a new spot. I know the Albany Cross was taken down, the Lions Club easement on Albany Hill. And so now that spot is vacant. So I was just wondering if anybody wants to talk to the Lions Club to maybe get an approval for a new sculpture to be raised up there. Some sort of art can go on Albany Hill. Second of all, I think that it would be neat to create a scholarship for high school student going to college, like maybe a $5,000 scholarship for a student that's going to an arts college, whether it be digital arts or fine arts or something, but that would be designated for a Albany high school student to go to help go to college. It could be 5 scholarships for $1,000 each, or 10 scholarships for $1,000 each, whatever you want to do. But I think that would be a great thing to do to get along with the school district, and that's kind of community as well. And I think that's all I wanted to mention, just those two things. And about the herring, I remember I think it used to be blue and white, but it looks like it's all brown now that it was just kind of covered up. Oh yeah, the idea with the herring project is I would go spend $500 on some glow in the dark paint and just paint that whole thing glow in the dark paint, so then at nighttime it would just glow. I think that would be really cool. Thank you for your time.
We could do multicolored glow-in-the-dark paint so that it's,
That might keep the taggers away from it,
yeah, you know? They're like, oh my God, it's so cool, we can't change it.
or it's like glowing and I'm standing here defiling it right now.
Uh,
Not a good idea.
Okay, any comments on that or any other discussion before we potentially entertain a motion?
Would our next step be looking into the prices for rehabilitation of the heron sculpture, or what is the next step?
So the next step for that, I would confer with staff to find out if that's something that we need to do internally or whether or not that needs to come back to the community to create a subcommittee. I believe it's that sort of pricing and those estimates is something that we can do in-house, but let me just verify that. But in any event, either a subcommittee or staff will come back with some estimates for what that would take to rehab that, since the committee is not interested in taking the sculpture down or moving it somewhere else. So likely that would be something that we would report back to in September.
Yeah, and I guess the only other comment I have is, yeah, that the cross was removed earlier just a couple months, like last month or something, and that's definitely an opportunity there to put something up in the future, and something I think we should keep on our radar.
I have one idea for an amendment. It's not more of an idea. It's more of an amendment than an idea, excuse me. It's just kind of marking it up from 4,500 to 5,000 for the sculpture loan program, just to give a little bit more leeway.
I don't believe we need to vote on that specifically, but when we look at a vote on this particular item, I think you'd want to articulate the change from, what was that, 2,500 to 5,000.
Okay,
You'd want to articulate that in the motion.
okay. Can we make the motion?
Chair, go on.
All right, I'll make it. I move to approve the public arts plan for 2023 to 2025 in the draft form with the addition of 80.
Oh, let me bring this.
80.
I put 81.5 in there.
81.5 for the murals in commercial district, and the change for the sculpture loan program from 2,500 to 5,000. For a total of 1,000, I lost my mouth, sorry. 1,500.
Okay.
Any seconds?
I'll second that.
All right. All right, so let's do so Deirdre, you made the motion. Brad, second. All right, okay. Committee Member Baldwin.
Aye.
Committee Member Carlton.
Aye.
Committee Member Green.
Aye.
Committee Member Juan.
Aye.
Committee Member Shah.
Aye.
Chair Chen.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Good work. It has been decided. All right. So brings us to Let me stop my share here. All right, subcommittee updates.
Okay. So the Foyer Art Gallery is going to be kind of brief because it's up and running. It's not up and running, but it's on its way. Ken Gold, the current next exhibitor, will be installing on Friday with a reception that Emily graciously is going to host on Sunday.
Oh.
And I don't know if he ever got his postcards or if the postcards came out or not. I have to double check on that. And he had this very interesting idea of tying in his exhibit with books from the library, because they're all about these primates that he's known, basically he's worked with. So I reached out to our library member to see if she can help us with that or see where we need to go with that. But overall, everything's going quite well. It's Ken set up Jonathan, who's going to follow him. I'll have to double check with him, but he's on board to show after Ken. And then I can't remember the name of the next artist. But Lee Ching, yes. Set for next year. So I think we might want to still put out RFPs to get some more people in the hopper there, just in case something falls through.
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about at the last meeting, doing the open call through September, so that you can receive some additional applications
Okay,
for 2024, right?
that'd be great, yes, yes. Anything else?
What time is the reception?
I don't know.
I think it was at 4 p.m. last time, so I actually have the postcard and I just sent it to you, Jeremy, if you're
Okay.
able to pull it up. But yeah, it's from 4 to 6
Okay.
on Sunday. So if anyone wants to attend, I encourage you to, and it should be, yeah, it should be really exciting, and especially if we're able to work with the library and have this interaction. So when people come in and see like the paintings and are, excited about it, they can like check out some books and stuff, and they can go a little bit further. And Ken has a lot of experience with public education on primates too.
And for those who may not know, the Community Art Gallery is at the library.
Yeah, so that's the front of the postcard. And yeah, the
That's
back
the back,
has
yeah.
the dates of the,
Yeah, let's see, 4 to 6 p.m., Sunday, July 16th, at the Albany Community Center, 1249 Marin Avenue. Yeah.
Yeah. If you guys can make it, please come by.
one other, maybe we need to discuss this later as a subcommittee, but I know that the September deadline last year was because they didn't have somebody lined up for January, so maybe that could be our initial deadline, but we can possibly extend it later because we already have January to March.
Okay. We can add that for future agenda items, and then we can discuss that at the September meeting and extend it, November to December, or something like that.
Yeah, and I can touch base with Jonathan to make sure he really will be ready if he needs to show in October.
And subcommittee, you can work with me, and we can finalize those details if you need any of my assistance, or work with Joy at the community center. Either one is fine. Okay.
Yeah, Brett, I can help with the call, or putting out the call, since you've been doing a lot of the scheduling. Okay, any questions about the update? Okay, I don't know if we need a mural subcommittee update, but any other thoughts from the mural subcommittee?
No, thank you for your support.
Let's just open it up for public comment to see if there's anybody else who has public comment on the subcommittee. updates? And I don't see any hands raised on that.
What is the decorum when somebody is calling in? Because they only get 3 minutes, so I don't want to just jump in and start asking them questions.
So public comment usually is one way towards the committee. So the public has 3 minutes to ask questions. It's not usually a dialogue back and forth. They'll ask their questions. In this case, we only had one public commenter, but say if there's 10 people would get their 3 minutes, or the chair can decide if it needs to be a lower amount of time, depending on the number of people who want to speak. It's at the chair's discretion. And then after the committee receives public comment, then you can answer the questions or discuss any of the items that are raised.
Okay, thanks.
Another comment for the subcommittees is maybe we should also start thinking about forming other subcommittees once our projects plan is approved, and then also if the Foyer Art Gallery Subcommittee or the Murals Subcommittee wants additional members, we can also add, now that we have more committee members, we can also add more people to those teams too. And so in the future, if we wanted to do that, where would that fall under?
We'd create an agenda item for updating committees. Under line 6, just a discussion or addition of subcommittees. Perhaps over the August recess, the committee want to take a look at the Arts Master Plan. It's a little bit old, but there's a lot of information in there, and perhaps there's something that sparks your interest and that you'd like to work on further. Maybe there's another aspect of what the Arts Committee has worked on in the past that we'd like to bring back. And now that could be a discussion item for the September meeting, and then the committee can, choose to create some additional subcommittees. There certainly have been more in the past, so I think that would be probably the best way to go about that.
Yeah, I want to say in the past, I think we had about 5 or 6 subcommittees last year just on kind of different work streams or projects that folks were interested in, so.
Yeah, and subcommittees aren't meant to be ongoing forever and ever. So working on a particular project, report back to the committee. Committee, can take some action on the work that the subcommittee has done, disband the subcommittee, create a new subcommittee based on whatever the committee wants to focus its attention on.
Okay. Yeah, then we'll plan on the next meeting potentially creating more subcommittees, and then folks can also think about what committees they would be interested in joining between now and September.
Where would I be able to find the Arts Master Plan?
Okay, here, I'll show you. So let's see, do I already have it pulled up here? No, not yet. Let me open that up.
I looked up Arts Master Plan on Albany, the website, but nothing came up.
So here, I'll show you specifically where it is. So on the city website, I'll just take it back to this. So if you go to the homepage, and if you go to Our City and then Art in Albany.
I'll write that down.
So yeah, albanyca.org/r-city, Art in Albany. You can find it through the green tab at the top, and it's on the upper right-hand corner, Art in Albany. The easiest way to get that is to one of these buttons here. I will be updating this page, but there's a little tab button right here, Public
Awesome.
Art Master Plan. It takes you to the page. And there should be there's a link to the ordinance, and then the Albany Public Arts Master Plan is highlighted here in the text. It's not as easy to find as I think that it could be. But like I said, I'm still coming to the Arts Committee world, even though I am the webmaster for the city. I haven't looked at this section for quite some time, and I meant to get this all done before this particular meeting. I did a couple of things, but by the time you guys come back in September, it should be updated to be a little bit easier to find. But we're also in the process of contracting to build an entirely new website for the city, which that's kind of the project that I'm working on right now. So even though it may look a little bit better now, once we have a new website, it will be a lot easier to find.
Awesome, thank you.
So let me see if I can just open this up.
Do you generally need any materials or anything? Because I was looking at, obviously, my side, which was the community art gallery. Would you be posting like pictures of Ken's
You know, I
stuff?
think right now we're really limited. We're limited in there's a kind of a broader discussion about the capabilities and the limited size formats and the antiquated WYSIWYGs of our particular website. Our website is 400 pixels wide, where you can add content. So and some of the photo rendering is cumbersome. Why we've created separate like Squarespace websites for more engaging projects. So yes, the answer is yes. I would certainly like to have that content. It would be nice to be able to feature in some of our e-news or social media. We can certainly do that. The website is not necessarily the best place to feature that. Probably social media would be a better place. And if we do some coordination, we can certainly do outreach on Facebook, Instagram. If you guys want to make clever videos, we can put it up onto our YouTube channel too. So there's a
About
number of
clever
things we could do.
videos, but so are you the mastermind behind the
Yeah, I would
social
be.
media?
I manage all of it. Different staff take care of the actual posting.
Okay.
So I'm kind of like the admin for everything. But I certainly can facilitate that, especially if it's arts committee content. So, yeah, the answer is yes. So if you have something that you'd like to share with the community, I would be the person to share it with.
Okay, I was just mostly just curious at this point.
All right. I think that takes us to.
So in terms of future items, agenda items, we will hear back from the council by our next meeting, or not yet about the PAPP?
I'm not certain if this will go to council, whether or not it will require a presentation from the Arts Committee. I believe that would be something, I'll reach out to you, Chair, if it turns out that something's going to happen. Either you as the chair could come and present to council the public arts, the PAPP, the committee's recommendation for the council to accept or adopt it. I'm not sure whether or not we need to, I believe that Isabel or I would prepare a staff report that would go to council. I don't think that would happen in July, but it's possible that it could since the committee just passed it. So let me find out, and then I'll get back with you. And then if there's likely something that you and I could determine, if you were not able to make it, either vice chair or another designee could come in and make the presentation. I imagine that probably would happen in September, but it's possible that it could happen as early as 2 weeks from now, the July meeting for City Council. Yeah, I think that's. I'll chat with Isabel and see what her
Okay,
thoughts
great,
are.
yeah. Any other potential items people can think of now to include? Great, sounds like our next meeting is gonna be getting down to business.
Yeah. If the committee doesn't have any other items, there is one public comment
Okay,
all right, I'll go ahead. All right, go ahead, Jeremiah.
Yeah, radio check.
1 2 1 2.
Okay, thanks. Three future agenda items. One is the possible creation of a scholarship fund for an art student. Another one is to remember to possibly invite somebody from the Ohlone tribe or somebody from the Lejeune to the meeting to ask them what they would want to see in Albany regarding their artwork, or regarding the land acknowledgement statement and the commitment. And the third one is, I'm glad I remembered it. It's the rainbow crosswalks that went up around Cornell School. I think those are really beautiful, and it would be really nice to see more of them, possibly around other school crosswalks. I just think that would be really neat to continue that to other schools in Albany, possibly Marin or Ocean View or any other schools. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeremiah.
Okay.
All right, if there's no more of that, then at our next meeting is gonna be on Monday, September 11th. So we'll have 1 month of not meeting, and if there's no other comments, we'll adjourn for the night.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.